Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Blasting the shot. What a goal! Following you in all its magnificence.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Wolves Fancast. Rich Hobbs here, and joining me on this pretty dour evening yet again. We've got Stu and Gully. How are we both, lads?
Glorious.
Stu can't wait for these episodes after we've lost. I feel like he's a bit of a he's got this kind of sadomasochistic kind of yes, we've lost. I can get stuck into him now. Yep. Come on, boys.
So, what are you going to say, Stu?
Misrepresentation again.
Well, we'll talk about West Ham, which was pretty dismal from start to finish, to be honest. But we'll see if we can pick out any of the fun nuggets from it. But we'll also look at February as a whole, and what could potentially be a bit of a season-defining month within it. But also, we'll leave behind winter and we'll look forward to spring as we go and preview the games we've got coming up in March. Right, let's get right into it and talk about the game yesterday. But one thing I really wanted to draw wasn't actually, as my usual thing would say, oh, how did you feel an hour beforehand? No. How did you feel at 20-11 last night when you're watching Match of the Day 2? Because I'm assuming you both watched Match of the Day 2. When you saw the lineup graphic they did for Wolves, which they had us lined up in a 3-3-1-3 formation with Dendoncker as a number 10.
I'll confess, I did not watch Match of the Day 2 because I did not need to see those highlights again. But I should have just for this. This is exceptional work from whoever put this up.
It's Garth Crooks-esque, isn't it?
You know what it is? They thought, you know what, we're probably not going to reel in the numbers today, so let's just have a bit of fun with it. They might as well have put Jose Sarr up top by the looks of it. Like, I
mean, the formation is one of those. You know how we had last week? It was the 22nd of February 22. So it was a ambergram and it worked back to front as well. It's sort of like that with this formation in theory. It could have worked either way. But yeah, I mean, away from the bizarre formation the Beeb had us in, quite a lot of changes from the defeat to Arsenal. Silva, Trincao, Hoover, then Dendoncker, Marcel all came in. I mean, the reported reasoning behind a lot of those was sort of player fatigue. We talked, Stu, hadn't we, in the preview to this game, that we were expecting changes. Did you expect that many, and in that sort of formation as well?
Well, not in our formation.
Not in the 3-4-3 that actually did kind of happen.
Well, like you said, we kind of touched on this last week, in that something would have to give because they'd be absolutely knackered, both mentally and physically, because of what happened on Thursday night. So it was hardly a surprise, but I think we've been saying we said at the time, it was crying out for a three-man midfield. I honestly thought he'd do it against West Ham just because of what happened, and then for it to not happen, and then to have Dendoncker in a 2 again, which has been proven not to work all season long. It was a worry. I mean, Hoover, we'll get into Hoover, but there's not much choices there, unfortunately.
I was going to say, the choice would have been between Hoover, who hasn't played in a couple of months, and Johnny, who's played half an hour in 10 months. I mean, Gully, but what would you have gone Hoover?
Yeah, I tweeted in the build-up, to be honest, that I'd have been more than happy for Hoover to start. I think in the context of the whole team is where things started to kind of fall down a little bit. I mean, if I take myself to when I saw the lineup, I was intrigued by it rather than down in the doldrums or, totally negative, but I just feel like everyone who came into play kind of suffered as a result of everybody else that came in. There were too many changes. I expected it because we looked a bit shattered against Arsenal, and I think mentally it took a lot out of the players, but not like that, Bruno. Don't change it like that.
Yeah, because like every change, apart from maybe Trincao, I think we probably almost championed, and maybe Dendoncker as well. That we knew Semedo wasn't going to start because of the injury, so we knew that was going to happen. Aït-Nouri doesn't seem to have the legs at the moment to consistently play 90 minutes week in, week out for a really big duration of time, and I could understand why you'd have that bit of rotation as well. Moutinho just came back from injury, and yeah, I can see why you'd bring Donkey in. I'd have maybe Stu sort of suggests, 3-man midfield. Would you give Kundal another go in the midfield? We've talked about Jimenez needing a bit of time out the side, which happened. And I can understand why he kept Hwang in, because Large seems to rate him, to be honest, and he seems to get the most chances for us, unlike any of our other forward line. The only one I think was a sticking point was Podence. But again, you could probably argue a bit of fatigue as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, and I think we'll bring it in now because I tweeted after the game, about an hour after the game, after I'd calmed down, that it's a bit weird how we've suddenly turned awful since we've got a full squad of players to choose from. When we only had 11 and 2 goalkeepers on the bench, it was like, okay, needs must, everyone knuckle down together. And then Spears kind of did a whole article on this same phenomenon that's happened. And maybe because we were forced into things beforehand, playing your first 11, regardless of how shattered they are, would have worked better than changing half of the team in one fell swoop after 3 days. Who knows? But
you wonder if the Semedo injury kind of spooked him a little bit, because if he was on the edge of his fatigue levels, they played him, and now really he pulls up with a muscle injury, then they're probably going to hunker down and decide, okay, we're not putting anybody else at risk. I mean, I spent an entire thread explaining that Podence was basically undroppable after the Arsenal game. And then Bruno decides that, I was entirely wrong about it. But I think in the fullness of time, I've been proven right.
So I was going to say, if we can't hope then that this game was a case of us losing the battle, but hopefully going on to win a war scenario, because let's be honest, the team that played did not play. They didn't turn up. It felt almost from start to finish we were second best to everything. And if it wasn't for having a very solid goalkeeper, this could have been a different story, in my opinion, because even our defence, that back three, who have been so stalwart the last 6 months, again, just didn't have that same intensity we've seen them play with.
Yeah, it was too much disruption. It was just they just didn't know what they were doing, and that's what it looked like. And for that much of a rotation, when we've never had that all season long, you can kind of understand why. So it's, even though that back three are the same, you've got the players either side of them are different. You've got the players up front are different, who they launch balls to all the time. So where's the outlet coming from? I just think it was just a complete shambles from start to finish. And you can't really put any blame on anyone because they were all collectively awful together, like Gully said.
I think. Sorry, go on, Steve. Go on.
No, I was going to say, so you can understand why the back three would be more leaky than they usually are, because of the sheer amount of changes in front of them is going to have an effect.
Yeah, I think we've got this kind of mentality that we need to pick out individuals. We've probably done it ourselves, where we will give player ratings, on the Forza Football app at some point, and I'm sure you'll flag it up at some point, Rich, that each individual player has played to a certain level individually, but it's just not the way that football works. Everybody affects everybody else. That's just, it's impossible to not be that way. So when someone says things like, "Oh, Keanu Hervey is not fit to play at Premier League level," it's just a really strange, silly statement. No, but it is, because I think if Hervé comes into that team that started at Arsenal, I don't think you see the same performance from him personally.
No.
I think because he has players around him that are willing to take responsibility. When you look at the starting lineup against West Ham, you can count probably Cody, Neves, Silva, Fabio. That is who will actually stand up and take a bit of responsibility when it comes to making things happen. Players like Podence will get on the ball, make things happen. Jimenez to an extent. Everybody that started that game on the periphery of it, when you think of Hwang and Trincao, Marcel, Hervé, they're all players who are probably going to look around and look to other people, then Donker as well, look to other people to say, okay, you're the main man here. I need to kind of piggyback on the back of your performance, and then things might happen for me. I'm not going to grab this game by the scruff of the neck. And that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of the players that came in are quite passive players by nature to a degree. Like they're influenced by the game rather than they influence the game. Whereas you say, I can understand why a core of our players were on the bench. And may I just say, actually, our bench, I think Tom in the group chat said, is this the strongest bench Wolves have ever had, in Premier League history for the club? Like, I mean, obviously half of them were knackered, but you're right. Matinho, prime someone who will, if you're in a bit of a tricky spot, give him the ball, and we just didn't. Yeah, none of them seemed to know what the game plan was, and whether that was a case of the turnaround between games, the mental, the physical fatigue, or what. But we seem to struggle. My other sort of viewpoint is, do you think we're not necessarily giving West Ham all that much credit as well? Because they did things throughout the game as well that made it difficult for Wolves. It was highlighted on Match of the Day, and the fact how deep their wingers were, and essentially didn't allow Wolves wing backs to push forward. I don't know if that was a case of, the Wolves wing backs weren't effective in general, or whether me and you, Gully, we talk about it quite a lot, but there's two sides to a football game, isn't there? Do you think West Ham deserve a decent amount of credit apart from, to make us more dismal?
I think we should all get used to the idea that we're a very well respected football team within the Premier League now. You don't hear many teams talk about our weaknesses in any way. They're always of the impression that they're going to get a tough game. And I'd still say West Ham will tell you that they had a relatively tough game to an extent. They only won 1-0 at the end of the day, and they weren't. I don't think West Ham were particularly brilliant. They didn't have to be, but I also don't think there's too much to pick between our squad and West Ham's either, really. They've got one outstanding player in probably Declan Rice, who was by far and away the best player on the pitch. But when you've got, Mikel Antonio looks knackered. He still managed to have a bit of a run around up top, but he's not a striker that I think people make him out to be to an extent. He's off it a little bit at the moment. So they're not as threatening as I think we allowed them to be. And it feels like an opportunity missed that we didn't go full strength and really have a good go at them.
I think as well that for the second time in 3 days, it's a team who kind of got things from the original game against us earlier in the season. I know it was a long time between this one and the first game against West Ham, but you see how we lined up against them then, and it was pretty much the same game plan. And then nullified us this time, whereas before we took the game to them and Neves and Matinho bossed Declan Rice at Molineux. Whereas this time it was, I know it's Dendoncker this time, but they had a game plan to stifle us, which again was why I was saying 3-man midfield, just to mix it up a bit, because we've played half the season pretty much with 3-4-3 as the predominant starting lineup. So to go with something different might have worked, but there's a bit of Declan Rice. Catman Zuma was superb, I thought, as well, annoyingly.
To be fair, the ball literally gravitated to him around the box, didn't it? It just felt like anything Fabio tried to do was getting blocked by him.
Yeah, I think that's probably why all the idiots have been slagging Silva off over the last 24 hours, just because he was made to look ineffective to some extent because of how good Zuma was against him.
And he's humongous. He's
Yeah.
humongous. Like, he's massive.
But for him to play that well, you're looking from the other way around. For him to have to play that well against Fabio Silva kind of shows how much pressure he was put under over and over again. So
He was, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to necessarily go through every play on the pitch regarding Wolves, but I think Fabio Silva's one I want to pick out just because there's been a lot of rhetoric online, as you've alluded to, Stu. I personally thought he was okay. Obviously, no one played great, but you could at least see he was willing to do the extra work to create things, even if it wasn't quite coming off. I mean, were you happy with how he did on Sunday?
I mean, I thought he put himself about more than Raul as in a whole month. Nothing really came of it because of everyone else around him, but he never shied away from it. He always wanted the ball, and he was always looking for that run. But whenever he tried something, there was no, like they showed on Match Today too, there was no one around him, and he had no support all day. It was 3-on-1 against him, pretty much from start to finish. And like, what's the kid to do? And I just don't understand where all this nonsense has come from. Because I mean, I had a proper dickhead behind me. He was one of them where, pretty much from kickoff, as soon as anyone lost the ball, oh come on, fuck's sake, and all this. And there were certain players like Neves would do it. And you're like, oh come on, Ruben, you're better than that, son. And then as soon as Duncan did it, you're fucking shit. Like he was a proper favourite kind of lad. And obviously Trincao got the brunt of it because as is the way. But as soon as Trincao went off, Silva got it. He hadn't got it all game. But as soon as he had to have another target, and that's kind of like what it's been online as well, that people have to point, they have to have someone to blame all times. It's just bizarre.
But it feels like a weird person to blame in Fabio Silva, because
he's just next in line, eh?
Yeah, and he strikes me as someone, Gully, I don't know what your thoughts are. He needs to have, probably because he's not that experience, he needs to have players around him, and particularly good players. And Hwang was ineffective, Trincao was anonymous, and we had no backing up from midfield.
Yeah, like I said, the starting lineup was not particularly helpful to a number of the players because they were all chucked in at once. When you think about the forward line, and this is the kind of trade-off that we're in at the moment with 3-4-3. When we play Raul, Bruno seems to like him dropping in and linking up play with the midfield. We then lose something in front. Unless Hwang is playing, I think, who's going to make those kind of diagonal runs. But then when you start Fabio, who is going to play on the shoulder a little bit more, he almost kills Hwang a little bit because they're almost going to end up making the same type of runs. Trincao is just there kind of floating around, not really doing much either way. So unless you get, I think, another forward in there, we're basically in a compromised situation all the time, because without Fabio, clearly we weren't going to hold on to the ball. With Fabio, clearly we weren't going to hold on to the ball in the pockets with Trincao and Hwang. They're not good enough to do it. Anytime you play the ball with Hwang, up to Hwang with his back to goal, he loses it. Like, that is just absolutely, you can put money on it.
He's got a 2-yard touch, hasn't he?
Exactly. But then when you play Raul, nobody's going to make a run in behind unless Hwang is there. And even then, it's a bit hit and miss with him because he's not a player who he flits in and out of games. He's not going to be a constant menace. So that to then blame Fabio just because he's been chucked in to a scenario where, I mean, if you saw that lineup against Norwich in the cup, you'd have just treated it as like, oh, it's a rotation team, isn't it? Like he's giving people a game, and that's what you expect in a cup match. But because it's a Premier League game, people are treating it like, oh well, this is the level you need to be at right this moment, right at this point, and you should be performing immediately. It's just it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I think go on, Stu. Sorry.
I say that's why we always get so pissed off with cup games as well, because when teams do rotate like this, it never ever works. because there's too much. And so to do it in a Premier League game is just bizarre.
Keanu Hervey is basically asked to come and play once every 3 months and expect him to reach the levels of Semedo. Like,
yeah.
Who on this planet actually expects that from him? Seriously. I mean, he's a 19, 20-year-old kid anyway. But if I said to you, go and have 3 months off, I'll call you when I need you, and then come and, I don't know, plaster this wall or something like that. I'd be surprised if you produce your best work.
Yeah, I'm not very good at plastering. I was going to say, because I was about to make a furlough joke, and then you went plastering, and I was like, oh, I can't really go for it now. I think it's just a bit...
I'd love nothing more than to see you do DIY. It would be hilarious. I'm
actually all right when it comes to DIY, to be fair, because I've got the jumpers, haven't I? Like, you know, I'm in my fishing.
Have you knitted them?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by DIY, Rich?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it was a very much, just kind of alluded to, the stark reality behind. We've got a really good first 11, and even though we've got players back, that drop off between the A team and the B team isn't quite there, and the trade off between and we had it under Nuno, didn't we? That the positives you get from a consistent lineup week in, week out for 10 weeks or whatever, it drops off because then you've had players who've barely played for 10 weeks. And I'm not saying that, you know, Man City have got it right or whatever, where, you know, they rotate, you know, half their team every other week to get fresh players in, but you don't notice that drop off. And Wolves can't afford to do it because of the size of the club they are and having people who always want to, you know, if you're not playing, you don't want to be at a club, do you?
Yeah.
And it felt just like yesterday was just absolute melting pot of anything that kind of isn't quite working with the system and the setup. And I don't think it's Bruno's fault to a degree. I don't think it's anyone's fault, frankly. I think just a cascade of events of the last month all kind of, you know, tipped over at the end.
I mean, Man City get away with it because they do, like you said, they do it all the time. So you are still building in relationships because you still get them every other week rather than every week. But if you do that over and over again, then you kind of get used to playing with certain players. But kind of going back to the point I made earlier, to go from not doing that for 6 months to then doing it in the space of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's never going to work. It's just throwing everything up in the air.
No, it wasn't. I mean, we've not actually talked about West Ham's goal, which sort of summed Wolves, to be honest, didn't it? I mean, it took him until the 59th minute. Thomas Souček scored on his 27th birthday. He's not 27. I'm sorry. You're telling me
he's
a New Year's.
Yeah. He's a Czech 27, isn't he?
Yeah. Like you're telling me he's younger than me and you, Gully.
I know, it's quite depressing.
Paper round in Prague, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like that is, he's had a long paper round. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, yeah, just the defending. Again, it wasn't an individual error. It was like systematic throughout the pitch, just sloppiness left, right, and centre.
I don't know about you, but when Wolves get a throw in, I definitely don't feel like it's a promising situation ever. Like, even if we're in line with the penalty area, I'm not sitting there thinking, "Oh, we're about to create a chance from this." We just never seem to profit from it, and how easily they seem to get into the box off the back of, you know, having a throw in that corner was alarming, to be honest. And then I loved the Romain Saiss kind of playing hide and seek with Souček. Like he did the same against Brentford, if you remember, where he lost them.
Yeah.
He just peekaboo, and like that was it. Just jumped out of nowhere. I'm not really sure what's going through his head there, to be honest. He's trying to anticipate where him probably dropping off for a cutback, but just opening the channel up for the cross. That was it.
Yeah, Stu, what were your thoughts at the time?
I mean, we all kind of mocked Liverpool when they brought that throwing couch in, but maybe we need to do because you are. I mean, that was one thing as well. The first fell throw of the season, that in the air.
Ben Johnson was it?
Yeah,
I think.
amazing.
Yeah.
You never ever see it. He's like, oh wow, it's a throwback.
Just to make a Ben Johnson joke, you should get him checked out for banned substances, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
There we go.
How often do you reckon he has to put up with that joke?
All the time.
Every day.
Because he's really fast as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you work with someone like that, you'd be putting like talc in a bag and put it in his locker every day, wouldn't you? You just would.
Yeah.
Can you even get talc anymore? I know he was banned for a while, wasn't he?
Talcum powder.
Yeah, because he had like
What?
something like I'm sure. Oh, I'm gonna have to look this up because I
What?
sound insane again.
Did it have like a?
Say it all the way through before you go to the internet, Stu.
I thought it was banned because it had like magnesium or something in it.
Or
You
like
can definitely-
like everything had asbestos in it, like the 60s. So like
Yeah, you can definitely
talcum powder
still.
was made of asbestos.
I'm telling you, you can definitely still buy talcum powder. If not, then whatever I've got in the nursery upstairs is worrying.
Johnson & Johnson withdrew its talc-based baby powder from sale in the US and Canada amid concerns over alleged links to cancer.
So
in
we're
2020.
okay. We're okay.
I'm
over
not.
here,
I'm not here in UK.
No, of course we do what we want here. It's freedom.
Brexit, baby. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
That's
I know I'm going mad.
That's the taking back control we were all after, wasn't it?
Yeah. Say,
Talcum back control.
Old age women have breathed a huge sigh of relief. That's all I'll say. Something I found interesting post game was Bruno's thoughts, and we had a question from Twitter Corner, actually, which kind of loops in really nicely. This from Wayne McKee was what is wrong with Large James pass to press conferences. Talking absolute bullshit that we control games and wants us to continue that way. Have I missed something? To give you the quote from Bruno himself, from the West Ham game, he said, "It was a good performance. We played the way we wanted. We controlled the game with the ball. It was a good performance, but the way we conceded the goal was unbelievable. Also, we were playing against a strong team, Fabianski, one of the best in the world at stopping to stop crosses." Do we agree, disagree? Are there parts that make a bit more sense than others in there?
I mean, I think he's been possessed with Nuno this week, to be honest.
I was just about to say that, to be fair. It's right at the Nuno playbook. It's right at the Nuno playbook, that is, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, the performance is going to back it up as well. I think we need an exorcism immediately. I don't get it. He's gone all season speaking the truth, and whenever we've been beaten, like when he's wanted players and he's come out and kind of slagged Faustin out in public, and all of a sudden he started talking from the Nuno playbook, and you think, why? Maybe we could, just because we've got players. I mean, it's like frazzled his mind. I don't know where it's come from. I think it pissed me off.
I think at our best, we do control games without the ball very well. We kind of funnel teams into positions that they don't want to be in, and eventually we'll win the ball back. And we're obviously very good defensively. We're not been a team to really dominate the ball entirely. But when he says we control the game with the ball, that's the bit that confuses me. We controlled the second half with the ball because West Ham were more than happy to just basically sit on the edge of their box and say, "Kurt Zouma, do you think?" Because we weren't a threat in the final third. If that's, I'm clutching right now at what he might be getting at, but I'm not really seeing it.
I was going to say, overall, we had more possession. 61 to 39. We technically had more shots than them, 14 to 13. Just they had 4 on target. We only had 1. We had more corners. But honestly, did either of you think we actually were ever going to win that game or deserve to get at least a point?
No, not at all. I mean, we look how long it took to have a shot on target. I mean, that was the first save Fabianski had to make all day. And he's good at crosses because all the balls were just floated to him. I mean,
The annoying thing for me with that is that we've basically become a team that doesn't cross the ball anymore. So if you think the keeper's great at stopping crosses, then I suggest you try a different route.
Yeah, I can't remember like this season Wolves being a particularly effective team at crossing the ball. We don't get enough players into the box unless it's all, it's usually developed so we win the second ball rather than, winning the first.
And Bruno said himself, if Raul's head's broken, like it basically is, and he's not good enough for headed chances, then we're not going to score goals from crosses. Like he's quite clear on that. So that doesn't make too much sense to me. But
yeah,
I think games like that, and if you look at our record right now, we've drawn I think 4 games all season. Those kind of games are the ones you just want to basically stick in, basically shit all over the place, and get away with the point, and that's it. Like just forget about it. But we didn't manage to do it. And like you get a vibe from performance where you just know it's not going well. It just wasn't going well during that game, and to a certain extent, all you want to do, get what you can, and get on. What did Ian Holloway say with that quote about sometimes
for girl night out? Yeah,
you're not going to pull a worldie. Just get in, 4 out of 10, get her back in the cab and take her home, and that's it.
I was going to say, hold on to your thought about drawing games as opposed to winning and losing them, because that will come up in the second half of the show. I almost don't want to do man of the match, because
give it Fabio to piss people off.
Yeah. Well, not just to piss people off. I genuinely thought he was man of the match because he was the best of them. I mean, Sarr didn't have anything spectacular to do, and he didn't cock up again, which he didn't really cock up anyway against Arsenal. Like they talked about on TalkSport today. But yeah, I thought Fabio did everything that was asked of him under ridiculous circumstances. So yeah, it's Fabio Silva, man of the match, no doubt.
I'm happy with that too. I mean, my shortlist was literally him or Sarr, and I thought Sarr was solid. And I didn't think he'd do much about the goal, but yeah. So there you go. At least Silva's got something out of the game then, as well as a hefty price tag still weighing him down.
On the mantelpiece, Fabio.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We're going to take a short break, guys. We'll be back after this to chat a little bit about February as a whole, what could have gone better, what didn't go well, and we're also going to look forward to March as well. We'll be back right after this.
Hi all, Gully from Wolves Fancast here, and just like all of you long-suffering Wolves fans, I know exactly what it feels like to be lacking a creative spark here, some outside-of-the-box thinking there, but our sponsors Pixel Yeti Media are here to help. They're a creative agency that cover all of your web design, branding and marketing needs, with our very own wolvesfancast.com, a fine example of their work, so much so that I hear Jeff Shee is looking to do a deal this summer. For now, it's back to the team to ask just where the Diogo Jota money is gone.
Hi, welcome back everybody. So we finally got through February. I didn't quite realise how jam-packed it was until looking back at it today, that we played 6 games during the shortest month of the year compared to next month, where I appreciate we've got an international break, but we've only got 4 games. Stu, I think me and you right back at the start of Feb looked at the games we had coming up, and we're trying to do a bit of a points prediction on it. Overall, do you think Wolves did well points wise in the month? Exclude the cup game for now, but do you think getting what was essentially 6 points from 5 games in the league against Arsenal twice, Spurs, Leicester and West Ham was good enough?
It's exactly what I said. I said we get 6 points from February. And it was, I didn't think we'd do it that way. I thought we'd win 1, draw 3 and we lose 1, but it's still exactly the same amount of points. So it doesn't surprise me at all now. I think probably on balance of how we performed, especially in the last 3 games, then 3 points is more than 6 points is more than fair.
Yeah. So, Gully, back to your point you made before the break about drawing, and we're a bit of a do or die team, aren't we? That we don't like to draw games. We live by the sword, we die by the sword. I'll stop using old sayings now. Do you think that sort of killed us? If we're talking this is sort of going to be a season-defining month, the fact that we didn't, 6 points against teams that are around us in the table, I think is solid. But the fact we ended up losing 3 of them and winning 2 has almost gone against us. If we'd have done what Stu suggested and won 1, drawn 3 and lost 1, we'd have had the same amount of points. But I think the table would have shaped up a lot differently.
Yeah, like you say, it's the games against Arsenal that you probably look at that were very finely balanced. Maybe not necessarily on the balance of play, but in terms of the way they went, going 1-0 down against Arsenal at home, down to 10 men, and blowing the kitchen sink, to be fair, at them without really creating anything of note. We probably feel like we should have got a little bit more out of that and got a little bit more out of our attacking players, I think, on that night. And then having been 1-0 up away, that was a bit of a gut wrencher. So, yeah, regrets around those 2 performances in particular. I don't think you can necessarily point too many fingers at the West Ham game because it was just a bit of a shower of shite. But those 2 in particular, like you say, where Arsenal have gained 6 points on us, that's killed us a little bit. And people talk about aiming for positions and going for Europe and all these kind of things. The only influence you can have on teams around you is the games that you play against them. And we've let ourselves down there, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's sort of my thinking in terms of how the points ended up getting played out, because it kind of reminds me of the old sort of Fergie methodology when it came to try win championships, where he was always like, beat everyone in the bottom half twice, get that done, get your 6 points off all of them, that gives you 60 points. You don't have to win against the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea. You just don't want to lose to them. And that was sort of my thinking a lot of the last, 8 days at Wolves, with the build-up of games we had, that it was a case for so many of games we just didn't want to lose. And fair play, we got wins, big wins against the likes of Spurs, especially, the Spurs win off the back of losing to Arsenal the first time round. But yeah, it's frustrating because you can see they're all close games. Score-wise, the margins are so fine.
Yeah. They are, and it brings to my attention this. I don't know if you follow the other 14 on Twitter, which always pulls up a load of stats around everyone outside of the top 6, and they've got a baseline tracker table. I can't explain exactly how it works right now off the top of my head, but I did read about it, and we're top of it because, again, games against the other 14 right now, we are performing the best out of the lot by some distance as well, by the looks of it. So when you think about fixtures that are coming up and the way we performed, especially away from home against the teams that I wouldn't say we're expected to beat, but we look like we might, fancy our chances against, then we shouldn't be too pessimistic about it, I don't think, at this point.
No, I think that kind of loops in nicely to a question we had for Twitter Corner from Hungry Like Wolf, who I'm assuming it's the same one who's a regular commenter on our YouTube page as well, said, how many of the fancasters live the bipolar matched life lifestyle rather than a bigger view judging periods like February and March? I mean, Stu, only because I know you're probably out of the 3 of us here the most reactionary out of the 3 of us. How do you kind of view it? Do you look at the last month or the last kind of couple of games, I guess?
Well, if they can constantly talk about match by match, then we can react match by match. So I don't think that's been bipolar. You just say it as you see. You can do both. mean, like we've literally just said. I mean, start of February, we looked at as a whole. We got the points total that I thought we'd get. It's not, but you look back, you can't look at games over a block period because unless you're rotating like we have in the last 4 days, which completely failed, then you could kind of judge it. But I don't think it makes much sense to say, oh yeah, because we got Palace and then we plan to the next game. It's just you just react to what you see in front of you, and that's kind of, if we did a monthly podcast, then fine, you'd react over a month, wouldn't you? But I think it's not bipolar to say, oh yeah, just because we were bad last week and then we have to judge it as a month as a whole. Nah, not for me.
Well, I was going to say, I quite a phrase I heard. I think it was an American football pundit, whoever, say, use the phrase "prisoners of the moment," which I love because we all like it. Don't get me wrong, to a degree, and I think again because we've kind of got the opportunity to look back at February as a whole. I remember that Leicester City show we did, and the thing that was so startling about that is I remember us going away from saying, you know what, I think it was you, Gully, you went, we didn't actually play very well there, did we? And
but I think I also said on that same podcast, you know what, it's happening.
You're killing me.
I'm pretty sure if you listen back, I got looking at the maths and the league table and all the ramifications, and I was sitting there going, hey, look, if Nuno left us with one thing, he left us with the phrase dreaming is for free. And if we can't do that at this point in time, as a Wolves fan, given our history, I think, you must be a miserable bastard if you're not gonna, get a little bit excited about these things.
Yeah. As I say, before we go on to March, let's have a look at our table sort of stacking up now. We've still got our game in hand from Watford, which is kind of, I guess, a game that we still need to play to catch up with the likes of West Ham. There's now a 5-point gap between us and West Ham now, even with a game. When Wolves have got a game in hand. Looking at the table now, where do you think Wolves will finish? Do we think there's any chance that we'll finish in the Champions League? That's the top of where we could finish, isn't it? Do we think we've got any realistic chance of finishing there?
No, not a chance in hell.
Did we ever?
Not really.
I
think it's like I said a few weeks ago that it's all well and good us going on a decent run, but you're looking at teams who never drop points, dropping points, and more than one of them doing that. So I think it was a tall ask, and it was, you can dream for free all you want, but you always wake up to a nightmare.
You sound like
there's that miserable bastard I was referring to. I think weirdly, you look at the teams above us, and I know you're saying, I don't know who you're referring to, that of teams that aren't dropping points very often, because the likes of Man United are there, the likes of Spurs are there, Arsenal are on their way to becoming a good side, I think, but they're still not quite there. And West Ham, I don't see West Ham sustaining it because of their squad size and relying on players consistently. I just don't think they're that good. That doesn't mean I think we're going to finish top 4. I think, for me, we want to be aiming for 60 points. That's an improvement on anything we've done so far with this team. And where that lands us is anybody's guess, really. I think it's top 7, generally speaking. But that's a realistic aim. 20 points over the course of the last 12 games. That shouldn't be out of our reach. So let's just look at it that way. I mean, you don't trust the teams above us to really, really go and stretch, the gap. I don't know. Man United in 4th on 47. I don't sit there and think, you know what, don't even think about it anymore, because it's Man United. It's Man United. They're terrible.
But that was my point, though. If it was just them, then fine. But it's relying on all 4 of them above us to not drop any points and us gain now. Well, could be 4 points on them if we beat Watford, which again is perfectly doable. But I just don't see that many teams dropping that many points and us going on a run, a run of champions to make more than 60 points. I just don't see.
I think the good thing that we can see at this point though is the daylight between us and ninth. Like that should be seen as a positive, especially with the way we entered the season, because we weren't feeling hopeful about it. So yeah, and Southampton are on a good run of form. They're playing well, and they're still within a couple of results away from us. So
I was going to say, with 2 points, you've leaded on really nicely, actually, Gully, because I think in terms of looking up, I think the goal difference is a very big indicator of league position as much as anything else. And we're on the same amount as Spurs, I think it is, but everyone else is markedly higher. But actually, you look behind us, and we've got 5 points and the goal difference bump. Would Wolves finishing 8th, if the season sort of rides out in, I guess, numerical fashion, and we finish 8th, would we class that as a good first season under Bruno, or would we feel it's a missed opportunity?
I still think a top half finish should be a great achievement after what he's had to deal with. Hands tied behind his back all season long. Half the squad being injured at one point or another. An already tiny squad anyway. Having to adapt his usual system to the play, like he said, to the players that he's got here. So all said and done, I'll still think top half would be an amazing achievement and much better than I thought we'd do.
I do think that we should just kind of accept the fact that we are a team that plays on fine margins. So there are going to be results that just kind of go here or there. And I think Bruno's accepted the fact that we're going to have to play this way and ride it out to the end of the season and basically just be like, okay, fine. This is what the team's used to. This is what they're good at. And you know what? We'll get some results here. We won't get some results there. It's just a case of making sure we're on the right side of it more often than not. And that's why we're not going out and scoring loads of goals. It's why we're trying to keep clean sheets in every single game that we're playing. I'm not sitting here expecting us to go on bludgeon a load of goals for the second half of this season. And to be fair, everyone keeps saying it. Oh, we haven't. They keep looking at the figure overall. Since January, we have picked up in that regard. We are scoring more goals. It's getting better, but this team is good at keeping them out. It's not good at scoring them. So if you want to finish well this season, Bruno doesn't want to go reckless with it. He could, and I'd love to see it, to be fair, because I think that'd be quite fun. But until he can then set up his team with a back four and an extra forward at the top end of the pitch, I think we're just going to manage our way through and see where we go.
Well, looking at the games we've got coming up in March, I'm feeling quite positive about the next 4 games. Don't know about you guys. Palace at home. I was going to say, I completely messed it up. And I was going to say we're playing Watford away. No, it's Palace at home, Watford at home, Everton away, and then Leeds at home for the first 4 games in March. I mean, not to sound too mental. Got to be aiming for 12 points, surely.
You know what happens when it's the easy month? It never works like that ever. And after what Palace did to us at their place when they absolutely battered us and started to finish, pressed us all over the pitch, if he lines up with a midfield 2 again, then I can't see anything other than the same thing happening again, especially with the form of Zaha and Elise now as well. That's the one I think we drop points at. Watford is shit, beyond bad. Everton, we ain't got a great record there, but they're no great shakes either, are they, this season? And Leeds with the new manager bounce, which you'd think it'd still be kind of there then. So it'll be tougher in 3 of them games than you think it would be on paper.
I think tough games, aren't they? I mean,
we're going to go cliche, Sam. There is no such thing as an easy game in the Premier League, unless it's Watford. But no, in all seriousness, there really isn't. But I feel like it's the kind of run of fixtures we could do with at this point in time. Where we can build a bit of a superiority complex against these teams because we have better players, we have a better manager, we're higher up in the league, we've played well for the majority of the season. These are the games where you've got to try and impose yourself on these teams. And I think Palace away will have learned a lot from that game. And Bruno, we know, is a meticulous guy. He'll understand where their strengths lie and where he can probably pick a few holes. It's almost they might be a bit victim of their success in that regard. Watford, I mean, famous last words, but I just don't see how they would beat us. Really, they've got. I mean, to be fair, Ismail Assar and Emmanuel Dennis are pretty good players, but you've got to trust our defence in that situation. I think you trust our defence to keep teams out. Frank Lampard, don't trust him to put a team together that's going to stop conceding goals. So I see us going there and doing a bit of a job on him, come away with a 1-0, typical of the Bruno era. And Leeds, I just think Leeds, in terms of their squad, I think it's a championship team that Bielsa's kind of lifted to another level based on their mental way of playing. I can't see another manager coming in and getting that group of players to be a competent Premier League team. I can't see it. If you're really asking me, like, they're just not that good.
No, that back 4/5 with the goalkeeper is not. Yeah, of Premier League ilk. It reminds me of Bournemouth. It was held together, with paper clips and blue tack. But as soon as it slightly comes apart, you're just going to get ripped to shreds. And that's what's happening. That's what's happened to Leeds in the last month.
Rafinha's in for a tough second half of the season, I think.
Yeah, I remember what Russ said about Rafinha. You agree with him now?
Oh my God, are you joking me?
You just said it.
No, he's good. As in, he's going to be carrying that team entirely, but he's going to have to do a lot more of the lifting than he has been up to this point.
And we are going to point out as well that Leeds did a number on us at Ellen Road as well in the same.
They did, to be fair. Yeah, they did, to be fair.
But again, new managing, new system. You are right. I mean, they're there because of Bielsa, and they're probably going to go down because of Bielsa as well. But the sum of their parts are shit. Let's be honest, they are still, and they are. It's very much on the McCarthy era at the end, where them players had overachieved massively. You can only do that for so long, can't you? So
yeah, I mean, out of those next 4 games, then, how many points do you think Wolves are going to get? Bearing in mind, and no pressure on this, Gully, and I won't pick it on you because you mentioned it. If the aim is to get to 60 points, so that's an extra 20 points, that's 6 wins, 2 draws, I think we'd need to get to that. So would these be 4 of those 6 for you?
I think you go for I think you pick up 10 points here. I think, genuinely. And I'll be pleased with that. More than happy with that.
Stu, how about you? How many points do you think we're going to get?
Beat Watford. That one's a given. Not beating Watford is unacceptable. There's no excuse for that.
Is it really a 7:30 kickoff?
Wait, yeah. Can I just caveat my point very quickly? As long as he plays Pedence, we're fine.
Are you saying that for any game upcoming that you're happy as long as we play Pedence?
Oh, as in I'm just happy to see him, just watch. Yeah. That's my imaginary 3 points there. Just seeing the man's name on the team sheet. No, I just think he's the key to us getting results. I really do. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So so there's your 3 against Watford, and then it's either a win and a draw against Everton and Leeds, or 2 draws. I just can't see us getting as many points as we hope that we should do. And I'm already taking the fact that Palace will beat us. That's just big. I've just got a bad feeling about that game. I don't know why. But 7. I'd say 7 and being optimistic.
Yeah. I really wanted to do a Gully and go, oh, we'll win 3 and draw 1. I think I'm going to go 7 as well, but I don't quite know where we'll drop the points. I think that's the weird thing that they've all got on paper. Yeah, we're 8th in the league. We should be winning all of these games, particularly again. Watford, Everton, Leeds are all battling relegation. But at the same time, you see it happen. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'll go 7. I think, and it gets us part of the way there, doesn't it? Or we'll do the kind of, I think, what Stuart you referred to as classic Wolves, lose to Palace, have a meltdown that we've lost 3 games on the spin, and then we should, we kind of grind out a win against Watford, play exceptionally well at Everton, beat them 3-0, and then grind out a 1-0 win against Leeds. And it's like, oh well, we're just, back on.
It's really weird. Like Thursday, Sundays, like they're either unbelievable or they're an absolute tragedy. And I'm leaning towards the unbelievable because we're gonna get a nice little win at home on the Thursday at Watford, go all happy clappy up to Goodison Park, and then just turn up and roll them over as well. But it could quite easily be nervy, shitty little Molineux losing at 1-0 to Watford, and then we turn up at Goodison and Frank Lampard's Everton turn us over. Like it feels like it could be 50-50 in that sense. But.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we can guarantee that the atmosphere will be absolutely atrocious against Watford.
Yeah. Yeah. So it will need a lot to get us up for that game, I get the feel. Right, shall we round off some questions from Twitter Corner? Right. This one wasn't actually from Twitter Corner. It was from Email Corner. But it's from Caitlin in Richmond, Virginia. Hello, Fancast crew. I'm a Wolves fan from the States, which is an isolating enough experience. But after a disappointing pair of games we've just had, I feel the full force of the lonely wait for our next chance to pick up points. What's the most Wolverhampton way to cope with these doldrums? Always a highlight of the week. What's the Wolverhampton way to get through it, apart from talking to 2 other people on the day after a game for an hour about it?
Drink.
Yeah. I mean, she's definitely a Wolves. I mean, I guess any football fan, as soon as you lose, you want a game like within 3 hours just to get it out your system, don't you? But
no, I'll go the complete other way. I mean, normally, I don't know how I managed to watch Match of the Day 2 last night after that. No. Normally, I wouldn't bother until like Wednesday or whatever, but I thought, well, I'll put a bit of Quest on. Let's cheer myself up there. And I'll Pat Nevin on Co-Coms on Quest.
That's a treat.
Carabao Cup highlights. And that kind of rejuvenated me, hearing his happy little voice. And then seeing Ali McCoy's at Borough Market today. And you kind of think, okay, now I'm back, and now I listen to the Totally Show as well. And I'm back in this week. But normally, I'd sulk and I'd do something else. I wouldn't watch any football. I mean, Albion getting battered again, which is fun tonight. So... now I'm back into it, but ordinarily it'd be take my mind off it completely and watch something else. Go and watch Peacemaker. That'll cheer you up. It's all Wolverhampton at all, but
yeah, I was gonna say the Wolverhampton way is probably to just embrace it and be a miserable prick for a week, until you turn up, get your chance to have a moan at them again, and then hopefully moan them into playing well, which is what works, isn't it? Isn't that what happens at Molineux?
Exactly.
We whinge and whinge and whinge, and then all of a sudden the players start playing well, don't they?
Yeah, and they play well because of the whinging, whether it's online or at the ground, where they can hear your specific criticisms of their, elite.
It's entirely productive. All that stuff, all that talk about, lump it forward, don't go backwards, all that sort of stuff.
Play as a team.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah. I love that. The players love that.
I've heard it. Especially like the comments, and I'm guessing direct messages on social media as well. I can imagine they really appreciate it. Right, double question from Bradders, who's a regular contributor. What do you think Bruno saw in the West Ham loss that made him happier than when he was beat when we beat Leicester. There we go. I mean, we can't cover that bit in the show, but it seemed a bit of just odd. That don't think either performance was great against Leicester or West Ham, but it seemed, yeah, it might have just been doing it for players or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very Mourinho thing to do, protecting the players after a shit performance like that.
Especially the ones that have come in and not played much. I guess.
Yeah. That might be it. To be fair, because he knows they've been on hiding for nothing, and a lot of them haven't had a lot of game time. Maybe I haven't done Bruno enough credit in the first half of the show. So anyone who stopped listening half an hour ago, you won't hear this part. But yeah, there we go. We finally worked it out an hour in. The other question was Erling Haaland agrees to join Wolves if one of the Fagcast crew gives him an unforgettable night out in Wolverhampton. Which one of you does it? Where'd you take him? Stu.
What is it? It wouldn't be me. I don't go out.
I don't know. I feel like Kim could give Kim a good talk. Well, yeah, she's
careful how you phrase this.
Yes. Kim's a big drinker.
Kim is setting her OnlyFans site up soon, people. So
Jesus,
get ready for that.
We can't get,
but Kim knows more. Kim knows better places than me. I mean, it'd be drink mild and go to the Gifford, wouldn't it, or go to Planet? that's not a legitimate answer. Kim is more cultured than we are. So
yeah, probably. But I do think Erling Haaland is the kind of bloke who would rather just like take over a kid's football match or something, like going on in a park somewhere and just eat a football and then just probably, I don't know, watch something online at home, like the freaking South American Premier League or something like that. Like just he's just an absolute robot, isn't he?
I mean, I can see him. I think you're more likely going to see him sitting on a throne at a Gifford than you are sipping a cocktail in,
Parisian.
In Parisian.
Mm. He'd fill that throne as well.
Yeah, he'd love it. He'd love a photo in that throne, wouldn't he? He wouldn't post it on social media. It would like be a background on his phone.
He's the only person who would look appropriately sized in it.
Yeah.
He'd get the throne pregnant rather than the other way around.
What a myth.
We can but only guess. Right, next up. Not so much a question, more of an observation from King Wolf. There is actually a question in here. I'll go through the middle bit first. But whilst it was a bad week for the men's first team as a holistic club, the whole club are in a positive place with women's team dominating, the under 18s through to the semi-final, etc. Should we hold back from our overall judgment until the end of the season?
No. This is kind of like the question from before, the way where do you kind of take a broader view of things, or is it a bipolar to react in the moment? And you can do both. We'll talk about the whole season overall when it's over.
Yeah, the answers in the question is the overall judgment will obviously come at the end of the season, but at this point in time, we're more than happy to absolutely cry our eyes out on a podcast about the fact that we just lost to West Ham. So
yeah, I think, and actually, you know what, I've enjoyed doing the month review and the month preview the last couple of since the turn of the year, because I think that's an adequate amount of time to review a series of fixtures without it feeling too too reactionary, but also we have to react to the end of game because sometimes you can be crap for 90 minutes and you need to say it just because you played well the week before.
How's it already March, by the way?
I know. Yeah. Where's that come from?
Jesus.
It's upsetting.
Well, look at it the other way. You could have get 46 points from 34 games in the Championship as they are now. Playing a game more than Luton Town and being 8 points behind them.
That is bonkers. How far have they done fall? But don't worry, they did beat us a decade ago by a lot. You know, don't forget that, Stu.
No, can never
It
forget.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right, last question from Ash Dolan. Do we all have Stockholm syndrome? As for continuous abuse, this club gives us borderline unfair. And also, what's your favourite flavour of Starburst?
Maybe that's what it is, because we're all empathizing with Bruno, aren't we? No, like, oh, poor Bruno. Look at him with his
Yeah.
lack of players, small squad.
Let's give him another
Oh.
season.
Jeff, sort it out, Jeff.
He needs 6 more transfer windows.
Yeah.
No, you can only judge him in 2025 and onwards.
Tagging Fosun International and saying, "Come on, you cowards, back him," which is what I've done for the last 2 transfer windows.
Whoever picks up the social media there is thinking, what is this guy, a disgruntled holidaymaker in club medals?
Yeah.
Like that, like, or is it sort of pharmaceutical inquiries? Someone had a reaction to one of our drugs? Or no, it's a Wolves fan.
I feel it's very when it comes to Fosun and Wolves, I feel it's very 30 Rock-esque, where it's like very Shine Hot wig company of it all. And you know, Wolves are this really low down subsidiary, but because we're so emotionally invested in, we think that, you know, everybody in Fosun International HQ, all they are talking about is Wolves 24/7, not the hundreds of other, you know, businesses in their portfolios. But the more important question was flavour of Starburst, guys, because I've got opinion
Purple
on
ones.
Nah.
Purple or red, one or the other. Because I used to take them all out the wrapper and line them up,
and then do what did you?
No, so I'd leave the best till last. So I'd have the purple and red ones.
Why did you take them out of the wrapper though?
Yeah,
because they're already wrapped up
the
individually.
wraps are all coordinated colours.
They are specifically there to protect them. Like,
yeah, so you take the outer shell out, put that on the table, and then unwrap them individually. So you ain't going to mess about preparing it all like a meal, and then you'd eat it in colour coordinated order.
You've exposed them to the elements for no reason, like.
Yeah, well, they're not going to last for very long, are they? I mean, you'd eat
with the wrappers
Starburst in like minutes.
No, but why would you eat the whole thing in minutes? Who eats them in minutes? They're not squashies.
If you open, if I open something, look at the size of me. If I open something, it's not going to be saved for later. They're going to be devoured.
The more I look at Stu, the more he looks like Dendoncker in his retirement, like having let go of himself a little bit.
But why do you want? See, my sort of thought on this is I don't think any flavour is ridiculously superior to the rest, and it works because you get the mixture of different flavours. Now, I don't quite understand the need to reorder all of them. Do you only do that with Starburst? Do you do it with fruit pastels as well? Do you do it with wine gums?
Surely
I'm going down a rabbit hole here.
It's boring as hell having all the same flavours at the end. Just eating that, surely.
No, because it's like how you eat a beef dinner. Like if you eat a roast, like I'll always make sure there's more meat at the end than anything else.
You just leave the meat.
No, I have a bit of meat. Have it in order. Like
so
you have roast, carrots, peas.
I eat my food in a very specific order.
Are you having like pure vegetarian bites, like in between? Like?
Yeah, and then I'm sick inside because I'm not eating. I'm in a carnivore.
For some reason, I'm on Team Stew here. On roast dinners, I'm on Team Stew. That I will eat all my vegetables, all my potatoes, then I'll eat all the meat. And I know it's weird. I can't quite get behind because it's all in my plate in front of me. But surely,
I'm not that
in
bad.
A packet, you can.
To be fair,
like you get a little bit of surprise.
I mean, I'll cut you guys some slack. Generally speaking, European food Europe is the only place on the planet where basically you don't just chuck something in the pot and make it a curry. So you know what? If that's how you want to eat your food, that's how you guys eat your food. Us Asians and us South Americans and the rest of the world who are on the right planet, we'll do the right thing.
So you look like when we went for the curry last week. If you were watching me, well, when you want tapping your trousers and drying yourself.
For God's sake, don't even start this. Stu.
We moved on.
My trousers are literally hanging here still. I haven't even picked them up off the clothes horse.
But I always leave a bit of chicken till the last. So I just do. So I don't just shovel it all in.
Yeah.
But then there's chicken.
I don't mind that.
With the number. See?
I don't mind
It's
that.
a similar principle. But yeah, so fruit pastels is the same. Fruit pastels with the red and the purple ones are always last. It's colours. Well, it's like a traffic light of flavour.
But I'm not going to edit the audio, but that silence could have genuinely gone for 10 seconds. That's fascinating.
Baffling.
Stu, yet again.
It's logical.
There's so many strands to Stu's life that just fascinate, like genuinely. You do I feel like you do everything in a unique way. Is that is there anything you do normally? Oh, we've talked about you going to the toilet and stuff, haven't we? Standing up.
From a height.
Standing up to wipe. Is that you as well?
Yeah, well, yeah, because that makes perfect sense. And we'll do this is staining. We'll do a poll properly. We've been better. See, you've done this now. You've put this out into the public. I've said this for years that we should have a proper poll on Twitter. If you wipe standing or sitting or /squatting, and now it's going to have to happen. And it's all your fault, Gully.
Oh.
And now Jafo and Tom are going to have to join this farce, and we're going to have to get their opinions.
We're going to turn him away from the podcast, aren't we?
I was going to say they've done so well with a few pods they've been on as well. Well, I feel like that's probably before we get carried away.
Note.
Yeah, a good point to end the show. But do keep an eye out for our socials at Wolves Fancast for any interesting polls that may or may not come out in the next coming days. It's at Wolves Fancast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Big shouts out to 90 Min Football Network and also to our sponsors, Pixel Yeti Media. We will be back to preview the Palace game later this week. And until then, it's goodbye from Gully.
See you guys.
It's goodbye from Stu.
See you later.
And it's goodbye from me. See you next time.